Yo! Yo! Sanbonani. Let me go this way. Hello. Happy eclipse to you. Welcome to Sangoma Society, where we demystify the astral and the ancestral. Mina Ngingu Makosi Unomabuto, and I am Honey Tell a Story on all social media platforms, and Honey Makwakwa to my parents. Bagit, congratulations if you made it. Congratulations. This has been one of the most intense weeks of the year, astrologically speaking, and it's just getting started. Things are only going to be ramping up from here. Happy eclipse to you. If you remember, at the beginning of the year, when we spoke about this year in general, we said how things might feel stuck and slow in the first 2 months of the year. And at the time, it may have seemed like a ridiculous thing to say, considering how much was just in motion, especially because we're reading here for the collective and we do touch on the political because that is what affects us collectively and governs how we are able to connect with each other communally, right? So when we were saying, Uguti, things are asking for you to sit tight and really uzinze and take the time to make your considerations for yourself about what it is you stand for and what your boundaries and your hard lines are, because things are going to start just being in motion. Um, Come March, this is what we were talking about. And it's not so much that you are expected to take specific actions at this time, but rather that you know where you stand as things move around you at this time. Now, if you haven't had the opportunity to, sit with um, the things that are uncomfortable for you and really reconcile with your own shadows and consider what your hard lines are. If you haven't had that opportunity, this eclipse is actually a gift for that. It's actually an opportunity for you to be able to surrender to the power of this moment and accept the truths that it is showing you. It might be considerably uncomfortable because there might be some things that are being revealed right now that, especially with regards to relationships and all kinds of relationships, not just romantic, that are very uncomfortable for you to sit with. And that's okay. You know, allow yourself to be within that discomfort. Now, today, we're going to also see Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries. And as those uncomfortable things come up for you, as Virgo does, Virgo being in our South Node right now, wanting us really to get our house in order and actually know where we stand and taking stock of things during this Venus retrograde, when it coincides now with this Mercury retrograde, the things that are coming up might feel as though you want to raise them, you want to address them and address them very quickly. And you might find that you have a sharper tongue than usual, even because Mercury is retrograding in Aries. Now, let's just remember that Aries can be a little hot headed, act now and think later. So give yourself the necessary pause before responding. Particularly for me, more than the fighting words that this retrograde brings with it. And I mean, we've definitely seen the fighting words already just in terms of the Mercury pre shadow in the recent weeks. And as we've closed in on this, the words of war being thrown around so flippantly um, by world leaders is nothing to take lightly at this time. So when we're speaking about this Mercury retrograde in Aries at this time, we're talking about words like that, words that you might not be able to take back. Um, and again, give yourself pause. For me, when I look at it on a personal level or yeah, personal level and material level, what has been there for me is the heat. You know, Mercury itself is molten already. And then Aries is, you know, the youngest fire sign. So very, very combustive. Um, so, like, with regards to your electronics, which we know Mercury retrograde can affect. It's just things like maybe not charging things overnight, being careful of like power surges, if it's been a thing that you wanted to look at in terms of your own home and things, where to guard, safeguard your home against things like that. It's really a good time to invest in that way. And then, whew, the eclipse itself today, it's a culmination started on the 6th of February. Yo, yo, where we had Neptune conjuncting the North Node in Pisces. And this week, we've had Saturn, Kazimi, in Pisces. And obviously, the Sun entered Pisces. Um, and then today, we have this full moon in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, while it's in Aries. But then there's a lot of this Pisces energy. And for me, this Kazimi is so, so strong. I'm feeling the energy of that so strongly. And I feel as though we're going to be riding out this Pisces energy well into April. So Pisces is the dreamer and it is ruled by Neptune, which is in Pisces right now. And it, it is calling for us to dream new dreams, not just in the waking or the ambitious aspects of ourselves, but in the collective sense, in the ways in which we consider what is possible, in the ways in which we consider how we connect and commune, and the systems, again, Virgo, the systems. This, um, I think it is Neptune, which is at, let me go look at my notes directly. I believe it is Neptune, which is currently at the 29th degree of Pisces. Yes. And that is the that I don't want to say volatility, but it's a very special degree in astrology because it gives this boost or oomph or sekgowa fihlang hle bathong. The English for what I want to say is escaping me. But like when this planet is about to leave the sign that it's in, 29th degree, it's almost through its passage. But what it brings is almost as though the essence of it, the last kick of a dying horse, the need, the urgency, right, of the lesson that this transit was here to teach is basically um, the energy that we feel at the 29th degree. And Pisces really, Neptune and Pisces really wanted us to imagine things anew. And we have seen um, some really incredible innovation, especially with Saturn in Pisces as well. You know, there has been such incredible innovation over the last 2.5, 3 years, but not in the spaces where governance is concerned, right? Hence, yo, yo, Marcos. Hence, we really spoke so deeply and with so much anticipation and excitement about what Aquarius was going to be doing, because where Aquarius moved into also had an impact on how now things are playing out, right? But what we're seeing at this moment is that foundation for what becomes possible. Pisces is asking us, Neptune and Pisces is asking us to dream of a new way of reimagine. That's what it is. Reimagine what is possible. This eclipse season is going to give us that opportunity to permit ourselves that possibility for the status quo not being what it is at this moment. I think it's been very topical in the recent days that I don't think there's any country in the world where the people feel like it's possible for anyone to outwork the dynamic they find themselves in with regards to what their governments are doing, with regards to how their various governments are responding to global pressures at this time. It is not unique in any way what we're experiencing here in South Africa. This is global, right? And everybody is this global economic downturn that we've been anticipating and talking about for the last 5 years seems like it's finally here. Nothing has been announced, but I mean, inflation is doing things inflation has not done in decades. We are about to see some scary hours. Um, there was even a moment, especially with that Kazimi, which was on the 12th, so Tuesday. That's when we kind of almost saw a free fall. I don't know what was happening with the American markets, but I'm going to call it a free fall. Okay. But like, there's also these things that are happening wherein collectively there is on the ground response. But now we have new governments that we're almost unaware of, in the form of algorithms. And we live in this reality that is being shaped by these algorithms as we've fallen away from traditional media. And we find ourselves in this position where we are subject to what our algorithms feed us as our reality. And those owners of the platforms that we find ourselves using to be informed and be in touch are shameless in their agendas. Of course. Are shameless in their agendas. And as we find ourselves subject to that, we have to ask ourselves, how do we move beyond this time? Because I mean, the algorithm came to govern in the last 2 years in this Saturn and Pisces, um, and so did AI really start to crescendo into this pseudo power of its own, right? AI governing our algorithms under the stewardship of neo Nazis, you know, people standing on stages, um, doing salutes, cohort of billionaires governing the information of the world and how we all connect. And this is, in fact, the information age and capitalism. All this in the aid of capitalism. And now we find ourselves all under the boot of that capitalist system. And it's becoming more and more obvious that it is not possible for an individual to outwork the system, because it's not that the system is broken, it is by design that somebody must be subjugated in order for capitalism to function, because capitalism aims to preserve an elite that the feudal system broke down. So now, with this eclipse, with Virgo asking us what is keeping our house in order, and the retrogrades bringing an opportunity for us to reconsider our relationships, reconsider our connections, yo, reconsider our communication. Ew, Marcos. When we make these reconsiderations, this window of opportunity, volatile as it may be, is here for us to consider new ways of being, reimagine the possibilities in terms of what is systemically viable for us and what it is that we believe and why it is that we believe what we believe. You may think that your belief is superficial and personal and immaterial. But remember, Neptune is one of those slow horses of war, and Neptune is at the 29th degree. It's going to be moving in this year. But before it does that transit into Aries, where you're going to want to take action on your ideas, it's giving us this opportunity to reimagine. So remember how at the beginning of the year, I kept on emphasizing how It's important for us to just sit with ourselves in January and February and not be like worried about things not moving, because the motion is going to come. Here we are. It is March. You are seeing it. Things are in motion, and things that you may not have anticipated, right? If you were gauging by how things looked at the time, what's happening now, it's like if it's a don't count your chickens before they hatch scenario, because right now the energy wants reconsideration. The energy is bringing also retrograde season repercussions. So as these things move around you, you've got this opportunity to reimagine, and not just imagine for yourself. Because, the lie that capitalism tells us is that we are on our own. The truth that our divine purpose and God tells us is that we are intrinsically connected to all those whom we've chosen to walk this earth with at this time. We've chosen to be here. We have chosen this moment in the history of time. We bargained for our incarnation to coincide with this moment individually, each and every one of us made our bargains to ensure that we would be here. Why? And if your personal thinking and your personal opinions and personal beliefs are so inconsequential, why are the richest men in the world using social media to shape our opinions about society, ourselves, romantic love, sustenance, food, clothing? Why are these things so important to those who have the power? Why are they prepared to burn this planet to ensure that we farm out our own thinking and imagining to AI tools instead of thinking for ourselves? If our own thoughts, ideas, and beliefs are so inconsequential. This eclipse season is an opportunity, yo, to reconsider your relationship with your free will, with the collective, with your concept of the divine, your participation in it, and what it means for the systems that govern where we are now, in the practical ways in which Virgo calls for. Remember, Virgo wants your house in order. Virgo is in the South Node. So we are going to be seeing certain systems collapsing. Now, when we come up in 6 months' time and we see that solar eclipse in Virgo, because this is a lunar eclipse today, right? When we see that solar eclipse in Virgo, um, Virgo will want us to have heeded certain warnings that we may be experiencing with this full moon eclipse in Virgo. Now, remember again how a full moon represents a tension of the opposites, with the sun and moon being in opposite signs. So, Pisces, the dreamer, Virgo, the planner, in opposite signs at this time. What we're being asked to do is get our house in order so that we have a hope of bringing our dreams into fruition, right? So, the practical things that are required may be giving you sleepless nights right now. You might find that, yeah, of course, listen, sleep is a myth in 2025. Like, I don't know, it is a myth. Anybody who's getting good sleep right now, I don't know what karma you have. I'm happy for you. But honestly, like, wow, okay? Our anxiety is like a toddler in 2025. And we might imagine that toddlers are absolutely bonkers, but they're actually just experiencing an overwhelm of emotions, desires, and an inability to meet those desires through actions of their own. Um, and it can be very frustrating. And that is what your sleepless nights might feel like at the moment. That you find yourself thinking through things, um, maybe patterns of regret, or, if I had had X, Y in place at such and such a time. It is not playing in your head like a loop because you're supposed to, you know, nest this egg of regret into a hatchling, but rather your subconscious mind is bringing to your awareness the need for you to take the opportunity that you still have to make sure that you do have those really practical things. It's like really practical things: insurance, identity documents, passports, visas, yo, Marcos, paperwork. The paperwork that that the things that you've been sort of feeling like are unimportant, you want to get the stuff done before September. Okay? And the stuff that your anxiety is bringing to the surface, allow yourself to sit with it, journal about it. Like, if it's coming up for you, there's a reason. Your anxiety serves a purpose. It is an early warning system. It might seem completely nonsensical, but it is literally a natural response to living in this system that we're in right now. The system is failing. We cannot medicate ourselves out of a failing system. Things are falling apart. There is no amount of conforming and storytelling that is going to change that reality. Honor the truth of what you're feeling. Sit with it and interrogate it. There are going to be some things that are completely, like, unrelated to reality, that are those shadow aspects that are, well, not unrelated to reality, because if you are doing the shadow work with us with clearing into consciousness, you will know that the things that come up, they're here to tell you about the things that you're ready to process, because there are things that have happened perhaps in the past, especially with the Venus retrograde, that's going to highlight these aspects with regards to relationships, right? Where you might be overthinking and feeling a little anxious in that space. And the thing is that you d- don't join the chorus of gaslighting yourself about the patterns that you're starting to see within your relationships. When Virgo says, get your house in order, get your house in order. Can you truly be in community with these people? Is it true? Is it not true? Don't jump to fighting words, because these are not words that you'll be easily able to take back. Mercury is in Aries and it is retrograding. So, I mean, truly, allow yourself to communicate with calm, right? But don't gaslight yourself into ignoring the patterns that make themselves visible to you at this time. Get your house in order. Be honest. And if there are things that are, it's an eclipse. Sometimes we say, be proactive and like get in there. Yes, do be proactive. If you need the systems, they are there. Use them. Clearing into consciousness is especially for full moons. But in your working, in your integration of your shadows, you're going to need a radical self compassion. And that is what is going to support your surrender to the truth of what is, as it makes itself apparent to you in these tumultuous times. Yo! Because the astrology of this week was one thing, lots of moving parts, but it's not stopping here. We're still going, it's still moving forward. Yo! Mercury is going to retrograde out of Aries into Pisces eventually. But before it does that, it is going to Kazemi in Aries, which means it's going to hit a fever pitch. That's going to be on the 24th of this month. Venus is also going to Kazemi when it leaves. It's almost leaving Aries just before it goes back into Pisces. On the 22nd of March, Venus is going to Kazemi in Aries. So this retrograde is going to be in the heart of the sun. So you're going to feel again the intensity, right? And then Mercury is going to Kazemi just days after that. The intensity. If your relationships survive the end of, through the end of March, strongest horses, I'm telling you, because it's going to be intense. And then we're going to close out um, this Pisces season with Venus conjoining Neptune in the 29th degree. So again, dreaming new dreams, reimagining, allow yourself the possibility that how it's always been isn't necessarily how it has to stay. You have to do anything. There's enough moving pieces. The work is internal right now, not so much that you have to take action externally. Yes, have your come to Jesus moment, speak to your ancestors about it, speak to God about it. But you know how these prayers go. They get answered in 2 business days, because when you're asking to see the truth about your relationships, when you're asking to see the truth about your community, Be ready to see it. And then grieve if you need to grieve, or celebrate what there is to celebrate. Because not always when we integrate a shadow aspect, or when we interrogate a limiting belief, is it that we find ourselves in a dark place as a result of that. Sometimes we find that we actually have more than we believed ourselves to have. Does that make sense? Sometimes we find ourselves holding a lump of coal, and we hold it for so long. We feel the pressure building up, and there can be a lot of resentment, there can be a lot of pain. But as we endure and we go through the cycles and we keep doing the work, and we keep finding that deeper compassion for ourselves, the part of ourselves that didn't know that there was a better way, that didn't know that, oh, if this person was doing this at that time and did that at the next injuncture, and so on and so forth, as we recognize these patterns, if we're able to hold compassion for that version of ourselves, we might find that when we finally open our palms, that lump of coal has turned into a diamond, because the knowledge that we gain from an experience that we view not from regret, but from a place of true self compassion, self consideration, self respect. You cannot put a price on it. You cannot put a price on knowledge and on knowing yourself, the person that you are going to spend the rest of your life with. No matter who comes and who goes, you're always going to be with you. And as these revelations about you and the systems that you've been using to govern your life make themselves apparent, hold yourself accountable. Virgo likes that. Virgo will support that. If you try to tell yourself a story and you blame and you look, I mean, if people have you fucked up, they have you fucked up, right? But when we are looking at ourselves with compassion, we're able to see what it is. Well, I mean, when we use systems to integrate these shadow aspects as well, it does help for us to be clear and see what it is that was shaping our perspective at the time, that made us move in the way that we were moving, which may have been to our detriment, right? And yes, people around us may have been taking advantage of that. Fine. But let us not be so quick to take up arms and let Mercury's Aries heated tongue be the one doing the work of trying to absolve whatever it is that our hearts might be breaking over during this Venus retrograde. Rather, choose the self compassion, the root of self compassion. And you'll see that instead of finding regret in what has in what these patterns may be revealing to you at this time, you find yourself feeling wiser from it and better able to structure the systems that govern your life. Because we're still, we're just entering the quarter where we're going to be seeing the forward motion. And I mean, Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be the whole quarter, guys. It's gonna be the whole quarter. 2025 is one for the books. I don't know what it's gonna be like. I don't know what it's gonna be like, but I know that it's worth holding on. It's worth holding on and worth considering that you don't have the big picture. You don't have the whole picture just yet. Don't think yourself so knowledgeable. This year might bring some answers that you weren't expecting. It's still a 9 year in numerology. Those are answers. We may not like them, but it might shape how you are seeing yourself, your situation, and this moment in time. Marcos. Yo! If there's one message that I believe that this moon has brought to us, it is the reminder that self love is cyclical. It's not a one and done. This retrograde is bringing us into the next chapter of our journey to self acceptance. Neptune in the 29th degree of Pisces wants us to be more mindful, even mindful of our dreams, like literally dreams. That's what Neptune governs. So remember those dream journals at this time. And not believe the lies that capitalist tells us, which is that we have to be stuck in survival. Survival tells us that we are alone. Survival is where we see those kind of interactions that Venus retrograde may be bringing our awareness to, where we feel shortchanged by ourselves, our communities, our families, our lovers, etc. And where we're becoming aware of those patterns right now, what you're going to see is how rooted in survival those patterns are. And if you can imagine a life in a different system, is it possible that how we relate to one another might change when we're not being put shoulder to rock for our survival at every turn? You don't have to do anything, but you can allow yourself the freedom to think it, to imagine and reimagine at this time what is possible. And don't believe the lie that there is nobody taking action. Don't believe the lie that you're the only one who's thinking what you're thinking. Makose, makose. Whew. Mm. It has been a pleasure to have this conversation with you today. I think I have covered all that I wanted to cover today. Um, Marcos, I'm just reading in the chat here. Marcos, self compassion. I'm not going to say who has written, but Batitowa's currently going through a whole life change and everything is overwhelming. Self compassion has been such a hard journey. It is like that. Kunjalo bakithi. And that's the thing. You're going to have to grieve. So much of what we understand love to be is itself rooted in survival. And that understanding of love, what we imagine love to be, that itself is affected by the systems that we are governed by. We must give ourselves permission to imagine that a great deal of how we move through the world is a consequence of having to survive it. And how others have treated us is a consequence of the scarcity that is created by the systems that govern us. Let's allow that compassion. Let's allow that compassion by it. Let's prepare ourselves to learn that compassion. We don't have to have the answers, but we have to give ourselves permission to imagine what is possible. Because the time to take action is coming. And when that shift starts happening from under you, and all these planets in the final degrees of Pisces move into Aries, you're going to want to know what it is that you're going to be running towards. For now, while it's the season of the dreamer, let's allow ourselves to dream. Because the season of the warrior will come, and then we'll have to know what we're fighting for. So, if anything, the zodiac is one of these beautiful things that show us that there is such a beautiful rhythm to the truth of life, because here we are in a season of dreaming, and what else is there worth fighting for if not our dreams? So trust the timing of this moment and let it teach you what it needs to teach you, so that when the time to take action comes, you know why you're taking the action you're taking. For now, dig deep. Remember compassion. Remember that you may need to relearn your understanding of love. Be patient with yourself. It's retrograde season. We're here for relearning, reimagining, reconstructing these concepts for ourselves. Be compassionate with yourselves and with others. We're very close to the astrological new year, and as we approach, we will be getting back to not business as usual, but business as whatever it is that it must become. We're also in the process of reimagining ourselves and our work here. Until sihlangana futhi, makhose makhosini, kube kuhle kuba nani, kukhanye kube kuhle. Makhos.